Can everybody hear me like this? Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see everybody here today. I don't know about you, but I've felt like an isolated recluse these past few months, so it's really nice to see you all here. So as you all know, the members of the Profile Committee, and that's Dan Jenkins, who's joining us online, Gary McDermott, Lori Sharnack, and I, have been hard at work this past year gathering information from surveys, writing narratives, and collecting and interpreting data to explain who we are and who our neighbors are for the church profile. So thank you all for offering your information and viewpoints. So this is what it looks like so far. It's not totally filled out yet, but it's quite a lengthy document, as you can see. As you may recall, the church profile is what each congregation is supposed to have on file and update every 5 years or so. And it's what churches who are searching for a pastor use to find a new pastor. It's not only basically our resume of who we are today, but also addresses where we see our church heading in the future. Pastors who are searching for a church use this document to decide if they are a good fit with the church they are considering. Today, we are presenting not only statistical information about our congregation and surrounding area, but also where we have come from and how Shenkel looks today. Some of this was taken from the surveys you completed, so thank you very much for everybody who participated in that. Our goal today is for you to understand who we are as a congregation and who our neighbors are, and to then use this to help us develop a vision of where we want to be in this next phase of Shenkel's life. When we determine that, the profile will be complete, and I, for one, will be shouting a woohoo! You've been given 3 index cards. For those of you viewing at home, please get a piece of paper so you can write down your thoughts. As we present our information, I want you to jot down 3 different words, visions, themes, anything that comes to you that you see emerging as information is shared. But if you have more than 3, don't worry about it. You can narrow down your list later on. You will then be taking these 3 ideas home and praying and thinking about them daily for the next 2 weeks. See what comes to you and dream big. If we say something that sparks an idea of how you would like to see us move into the future, write it down. If a new way of doing ministry comes to you, write that down too. Channel your inner Betty Krieger here. She always had so many good ideas, and it's such a wonderful way of presenting them. After the 2 weeks are up, we will be having another service and gathering in person, or you can join us live on Zoom. We will share our ideas and visions for the future, hopefully finding some themes that point us to where we want to head and what Shenkel may look like in the future. This is your church, and it is very important that you be a part of this visioning process. So let me get started with what we found out from the surveys. Let's talk about our faith life. We believe that no matter who you are welcome here. This was formally acknowledged when we attained ONA status in 2019, but really we've always been welcoming and accepting of all who walk through our doors. Our theology is scripturally grounded with the understanding that the Bible must be interpreted and applied to today's world. We are firm in our belief that God as Father, Mother, Holy One has created and sustains us, and that we are never separated from God's love. We are open to new worship experiences, whether through contemporary liturgy and music or guided meditations, while also accepting and blending people's need for a more traditional approach. Over the years, we've been taught about prayer and different ways to pray. We have a large number of people who enjoy a very rich personal prayer life, and many who pray daily for others in need. We also have a beautiful labyrinth used for prayer and reflection, which is open to the community. Our faith spurs us to reach out to others in service. Homelessness has been an important outreach for many. Remember the township battle to host the homeless overnight? And more recently, when we opened our doors once a month on Sunday afternoons to host those in need. Each year, our youth eagerly participate in a life-changing experience for many at Old First Church in Philadelphia working with the homeless. Our outreach continued with trips to Puerto Rico and financial support to Bethany, Coventry Food Pantry, and the Pottstown Cluster, among others. As a congregation, we are equally divided on whether worship should be a place of rest and renewal or a place to address social and community issues. One person put it this way: by melding prayer with the knowledge of the world's needs, worship becomes the place where we hear the charge to carry forth the gospel through creative, thought-provoking sermons and become motivated to do good in the world. For others, worship is more a time to center and find a connection with God and to be have the knowledge of God's love. Now, let's look at our congregation's strengths and positive qualities. Newcomers and longtime members agree. Shenkel is a unique church. We are friendly and welcoming to visitors and quickly assimilate people into our church life. People feel accepted and that they belong here. We are a healthy family in every sense of the word, supporting each other through life's challenges and celebrating our successes, while dealing with differences of opinion respectfully. We help each other in concrete ways like driving people to doctor's appointments and contacting those who are isolated or hospitalized, although some feel we could do a better job at reaching out. And always holding each other in prayer. Our spiritual maturity sets us apart from many other churches. Our sense of purpose through outreach is strong. This is shown by those who serve the community meal once a month in Pottstown and by our support of local food pantries. Many of us personally sponsor children's education through God's Precious Children, and the church supports Angela Reed's school in Malawi. As far as worship goes, we have 2, and more recently 3, wonderfully different spaces. Our beautiful sanctuary and the Grove, another thing that makes us unique, as well as Fellowship Hall. Not only the setting, but the elements of worship are important to many people. We discovered through your responses to our surveys that music is the high point of worship for many, and we are open to many styles, from traditional to contemporary. However, for as much as many people love music in worship, there are some who are not as moved by it. Shenkel people love a good sermon, and for some it is the best part of worship. We like our sermons to be enthusiastic, relaxed, and spoken from the heart. They should be crafted around biblical passages and include a heavy dose of personal examples and real-life stories that teach us and challenge us to live better lives. We look forward to a sermon that gives us hope and makes us think, and humor is always welcome. A large number of folks believe prayer time is the high point of worship. We believe the best worship experiences bring us to a deeper understanding of God's love and how God works in our lives for good so that we can in turn reach out to others. We have a tradition of being open to new worship experiences. Remember the Taizé-style peace service with candles, music, and readings? And the healing services before that? And the youth services with rock music and dramatic vignettes? And on a personal note, what about when liturgical dance was introduced during a packed Advent service, and teenage Betsy and I broke into giggles, and Marie was, well, outwardly very kind about it, but I'm sure she was inwardly mortified. These out-of-the-norm services filled a deep need for some of our members, while others prefer a more traditional approach. So we run the gamut when it comes to worship style preferences. We address some of these differing needs by offering 2 different types of worship services on a Sunday morning. Our Sunday school classes for children have changed over the years, mostly because of dwindling numbers of children. We now have about 3 or 4, and a difficulty in securing teachers. Classes are now held online. The youth usually number 5 to 7. Pre-pandemic, there were usually 2 youth activities per month, one that focused on service and one that was more social. Even with the pandemic, the youth still participated in crop walk and Operation 143, filling backpacks with food for Pottstown students. By far, their most impactful activity was the urban work camp in Philadelphia. Adult education includes Sunday school classes, a Bible study led by Pastor Suzanne on Zoom, and we had a spirituality fair before the pandemic that drew about 15 people. We enjoy outside speakers too on informative topics. Remember the Holocaust survivor and the imam who spoke to us some years after 9/11? We truly have been open to new, meaningful worship experiences and are eager to learn and grow. Well, that wraps up my portion of the presentation. Remember, if anything struck you as a theme or an idea of where we should be heading, write it down. Now I'm going to ask Gary to talk to you about our congregational demographics, basically a description of the types of people who make up our congregation. All right.
Thank you, Brenda. Good morning, everybody. Shenkel Church has 177 members on its books, but we need to answer demographic questions based on the number of responses we received from our surveys. We received responses of our family questionnaire from 37 families. Those responses include data for 77 members. All the data I will be presenting is from the questionnaires concerning Shenkel UCC. I know that just talking about a lot of numbers can sometimes be overwhelming, so I will show some supporting charts on the screen for everybody to see while I talk about them, and Pastor Suzanne is being my gracious assistant this morning. She will run the slides. They convey the same information that I will mention verbally, so if you like charts, they may be helpful to visualize. If charts don't excite you, you can just listen to what I'm saying instead. The data shows that 90% of our members have been members for more than 10 years, 6% have been members for 5 to 10 years, and only 4 have been members for less than 5 years. Pastor Suzanne, can you show this first slide, please? I can't see it. Okay. Okay. The chart you are looking at is percent of respondents by age. And in case you cannot see the numbers, the youngest ages are on the left. The blue bars in the graph represent the percentages of the age groups for all those who responded. You can easily see that we have more older people than we do youth and children. In order to do some comparisons of the information we gathered, the chart is divided into the following age groups: 0 through 11 years, 12 through 17, 18 through 24, 25 through 34, 35 through 44, 45 through 54, 65 through 74, and 75 and above. You can also see that the congregation is less than 10% of all the ages on the left part of the chart, except the range 45 to 54, where it is 11%. I took the liberty of adding the last 3 bars together. This represents ages 55 and above, and it shows that it's about 66% of our congregation. Next slide, please. The chart being shown is percentage of adults in various household types. Notice we have listed 5 different household types, starting from the bottom: single adult households under 35 years of age, single adult households 35 to 65, single adult households over 65, households with minors, households with no minors. Next slide, please. Let's talk about adult education levels in the church. Starting from the bottom of the chart again, you can see that we did not have anybody who did not finish high school. 25% have a high school diploma, 36% have a college degree, 24% have completed graduate school, and another 15% have some college or specialty training. Can we have the next slide, please? Our next topic is adult employment. Of the responding adults in Shenkel UCC, 35% are fully employed, while 11% are not fully employed or are part-time. 4% indicated they are not currently employed, and 50% are retired. Next slide, please. This slide addresses the range of adult occupations. Of those who responded to the survey, a considerable number categorized their occupations as professional or business. Those categories are made up of teachers and people working in IT as well as business. Beyond that, the percentages of labor manufacturing, clerical, and students were similar but smaller. Tradespeople also made the list, but with even smaller numbers. The largest number of respondents declared other. I should note that the other category includes retirees, and many, if most, of the respondents for this category were retired. The church profile also addresses racial diversity. I don't have a slide for this topic, but our congregation is mostly monocultural, white, with several African American and Asian members. This generally reflects the makeup of the rural community in which we are located. Next slide, please. The displayed table shows many of the various groups we participate in at Shenkel, along with the average number of participants. The major groups we have at Shenkel are, starting from the top this time, adult groups and classes, children's groups and classes, choirs and music groups, church-based Bible study, worship services, prayer or meditation groups, youth retreats, church-wide meals, community meals, and lunch bunch. Additionally, prior to the pandemic, Shenkel, in partnership with Cedarville United Methodist Church and Ministries on Main Street, hosted the Wholeness one Sunday afternoon each month during the colder months. In review, I would like to offer some overall reflections about the demographics within Shenkel UCC. 76% of our congregation is composed of people aged 50 or older. A sizable number of people, 60%, have a college degree or above, and 40% are high school graduates or have some college or vocational training. We are a generous congregation that likes to help those in need, as is reflected by the many contributions we have made to various causes, even throughout the pandemic. We also have not struggled to keep our church afloat financially. Here's one part that I thought I would remove, and I don't know if I should. But I'll just turn over to Lori, who will present the next part of the presentation. Thank you.
I am presenting Dan's part of this presentation. So let's talk a little about our church's finance and history. Shenkel's finances and assets reflect our congregation's generous support of our mission and ministry in several ways. First, our current fund provides for the ongoing operation of the church. Our pastor's compensation, staff salaries, operating expenses, and funds for Christian education, music and worship, and church property are all provided through that fund. Our annual expenses are approximately $175,000. Second, our membership and participation in the broader church is evidenced by fulfilling our OCWM commitment and achieving 5 for 5 status each year, meaning we contribute to 5 funds through the conference: OCWM, One Great Hour of Sharing, Strengthen the Church, Neighbors in Need, and the Christmas Fund. We recognize that we are not a standalone congregation, but are members of a larger Christian family. Third, our communion and special offerings provide support to our ministry and mission to our local community. Meals on Wheels, the local food bank, and funds for homeless ministry are but a few of the community groups we support. In addition, we have a separate programs, missions, and service project fund from which other local,
national, and international mission and service activities are supported. Any member can present a need and have it approved by the consistory. Now on to a little history. In the 1960s and 70s, our pastor, Robert Reif, infused an energy and new way of thinking into our congregation that shaped Shenkel's identity. Whoever walked through Shenkel's door was heartily welcomed by him, as well as congregation members, and made to feel that they were welcome and wanted. In addition, he taught the congregation about reaching out beyond our walls to the broader community. When Hurricane Agnes devastated many homes and businesses in the area, he gathered the congregation for the tedious task of washing household items for families whose homes had filled with mud. At some point before that, in the late 60s, when teens asked him why they had to dress up for church, he and the youth came up with a plan for them to dress in jeans and engage in a dialogue sermon about the accepted dress code of the time. It upset many members who believed the youth had rudely interrupted him, and as he assured them that he had been a willing participant, he asked the question, "Did you hear what they were saying?" This willingness to push the boundaries and challenge current thinking started us on the path of being open to innovative approaches to worship and extending our ministry vision to the broader community and the world. One of the most important events that shaped Shenkel's identity was the introduction of the Wholeness ministry in 1996. For many, there was an underlying yearning for something more than what we were getting in our weekly church services. We didn't know what we needed or how to go about getting it until we were taught about wholeness, contemplative prayer, and guided meditation. 2 prayer groups formed, each with about 12 to 15 members, and we were taught how to pray from the heart. This new way of praying was often incorporated into Sunday services, enhancing the worship experience for many. The most important event in our last 10 years happened in 2019, when our church achieved open and affirming status. Through church-wide meetings and open discussions, we worked through the process with a dedicated group of people at the helm. While many people openly wondered why we needed to address this issue, believing we already were open to all, they very willingly engaged in the process, and the overwhelming majority applauded the outcome. Our church proudly displays a Be the Church rainbow sign at a prominent intersection on our property, so the community knows everyone truly is welcome here. As with every congregation, Shenkel was impacted immensely by the 2020 pandemic. Within days, we needed to reimagine what worship and congregational life would be. To our consistory's and Pastor Suzanne's credit, we did a very good job in keeping people calm and informed and providing worship and fellowship opportunities that, while very different from the norm, worked for us. We held outdoor worship until it was too cold. When we moved inside to our social hall, where mask wearing and social distancing was mandated. When it was no longer possible, we moved to completely online worship. We used the gifts of a couple of our members to record and post Sunday services to YouTube and held Zoom committee meetings, Bible study, and social hours for those missing that weekly connection to our church family. We credit the successful transition to online worship to the flexibility and leadership of our consistory, congregation, and pastor as we navigate these challenging times. Our church has not been immune to conflict, though in recent years we have had very little. When disagreements have arisen, we have found a path forward through open discussions and gatherings that were well moderated and civil. As a result of our shared experiences, we have learned to encourage our pastors to be innovative in worship and have celebrated his or her personal and family successes. We have learned not to expect perfection from our pastor, as each pastor has unique gifts for ministry. Who is our neighbor? I'm going to be talking about things we discovered about our community. For instance, we found that we were very involved in service to the community and the world. Due to the pandemic, our service activities have been minimal, but we have been able to make an impact. We have continued to provide food to those in need through the community meal. Pre-pandemic, we had volunteers who worked at the Pottstown cluster of religious communities and collected food and other items. We support a school in Malawi and help pay for children's education in Liberia. Our youth go to Old First Church to work with the homeless and make a meal for them. We participate in the fall and spring conference and association meetings. For decades, we have worked closely with Temple and Cedarville Methodist churches, like Easter Sunrise Service, a joint Thanksgiving service, and our more recent Labor Day service in the Grove with other local congregations. We are an open and affirming church and support the UCC's God is Still Speaking campaign. In writing the profile, we were reminded that our vision statement says, Shenkel is an open house of God. We gather as a caring community, rooted in Christian spirituality, to grow deeper in connection with God and others, to go and share God's love in service and prayer with the world. Our area is aging faster than the state average, and the largest part of the population is evenly split between baby boomers, those born between 1946 and 1960, and Gen X, those born between 1961 and 1981. Our area is heavily Caucasian, and that is not projected to change much in the coming years. Average household income trends are expected to increase in those making between $50,000 and $75,000, as well as those making over $150,000. Married couples with children are projected to decrease over the next 5 years, while single-parent households with children are expected to increase. In the area around Shenkel, there are more college-educated and those with advanced degrees than the state average. Here is something to think about. Only a little over 1/3 of our community believes religious or spiritual programs are important. Of that number, almost 80% say that what is most important to them is having warm and friendly encounters at church. When we asked some newcomers to Shenkel what attracted them to our church, they stated that the people they met were friendly, warm, and welcoming. So who we are definitely appeals to newcomers. Of that 1/3 who believe religious programs are important, about half prefer contemporary services and a little over half prefer traditional. Also, quality sermons are important to most people. We were surprised to find that in this group, only about 1/3 believe Christian education is important to children. So that gives you a picture of how our area looks today and the trends that are predicted in the next few years. Now, Brenda is going to tell us about our next steps.
Thank you, Lori. I know we just bombarded you with a lot of information. Does anybody have any questions? Dave.
The data that Lori was just stating about the community, where did that come from?
It's a program called Mission Insight that the conference uses, and they get the information from all different sources. I don't have that information at my fingertips, but yeah, I wondered the same, how they could pull it all together, but they do somehow they survey people, and I don't know. Okay, Gary said he has the slides available from his presentation if you want to look at any of the charts again. Are there any other questions? Okay, so now it's your turn. Does everyone have something written down? Or in your head? So I want you to take those 3 things home, themes, words, whatever you wrote down, home with you, and the prayer that was also given to you. And for those of you who are watching this online, it's in the newsletter and possibly in an email that was sent out, I believe, also. So I want you to take time each day to center and think about and pray about the insights you had. What is important to you? Did anything strike you during the presentation? What do you want Shenkel's ministry to look like going forward? Dream big. In dreaming big, though, think about the facts we presented. So, in other words, conference people told me, if you want to create a food pantry, if that seems to be what your burning desire is to do, but your church is in an affluent community, it would make more sense to support another church's pantry or pursue an addiction ministry. So does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So we'll be gathering again on Sunday, May 2nd, for a service at 9:45. And possibly, we were going to do this at 11 o'clock before, but probably when the service is over. Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. When the service is over, then we will be start sharing our insights and visions for the future. So bring your cards along and your ideas. If you're going to be viewing the visioning process at home, we will be Zooming this presentation so you can chime in real time. This is probably the most important part of the profile process, so please do everything you can to give us your insights. If you truly cannot be a part of our visioning on May 2nd, please give me a call to express your thoughts or send me an email. So now, let us close with a prayer. God, we thank you for each and every person who has participated in the surveys and Zoom sessions we used to create our profile. Be with them this week as they remember who we are and who our neighbors are, and joyfully look to the future to discern who God is calling us to be. Help them to dream big, God. Amen. Thank you, everybody, for staying and participating.